Hi, my name is Alice and I'm the advanced bass tutor, and this is the first tutorial. There will be 3 in total on the Tallis, the Fantasia on a theme of Thomas Tallis by Vaughan-Williams. So today we're just going to look at a few little things. We're going to first familiarise ourselves with our part. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. So this includes looking at the key signature, the tempo of the piece, which is kind of slow and calm, and any bits that might prove challenging to us, like shifts and any difficult passages. Very quickly, the low Ds, some people may have them, some people may not. Just put them up the octave if you don't have them. And in general, I think we'll aim for the top part. If you want to play the lower Ds, please feel free to play them. In general, our part looks fairly simple on the page, but the whole time we are the grounding of this piece. And so we have to be super in tune. We have to be listening constantly, especially to, in our case, the recording. But if this piece was performed live, it normally occurs in cathedrals or big spaces where there's enough room for the main orchestra and the chamber orchestra at a distance, normally at the back of a church. So in our case, we have to really listen to the recording and listen to our own sound. We also have to combine it with our imagination, what we feel about the piece and what we think the piece means. So, with that in mind, let's try the opening first. So, whenever you're going to practice anything, get ready for your lesson, you need your instrument, you need to be comfortable, you need to have a great posture. Ideally your bass won't be slipping around the place, so get a bass anchor or something to put it on. Have your music ready, have your pencil ready. I'll give you a few seconds to do that and get set up. Hopefully we're all comfortable now, sat with our instruments. We have our bow ready and we're in tune. Check out the tuning video if you don't know how to tune and you want to double check. In the Tallis, the opening is really important, obviously, as is the ending. This particular opening is very calm and quiet. What do you imagine is happening? What do you imagine that Vaughan-Williams was thinking of when he wrote the beginning of this piece? Apply that and see if you can match the sound with it. The bowing that we're going to do is up, down, down, up, down, like this. Ooh, super quiet. When we come to practice this, and when you're looking at this at home, play the scale. So, we're going to play a G minor scale. Quite plainly, quatrains. When we look at any piece of music, if we know the key and we play all the scales and arpeggios and things related to that key, we're almost certainly going to cover part of that piece, especially as a double bass player, because we're the bedding and the bottom of any piece of music. Let's do that scale again, practicing a similar sound as what we would play at the beginning of this piece. We're going to play quietly, lightweight, fairly calm bow, so not too fast. I'm going to start on an up, since this piece starts on an up. Makes sense to me. Practice that. Now let's try doing the same scale, lots of weight, closer to the heel, completely different sound. We're comparing our sounds and seeing how good and how different we can make our sounds sound. So that during this piece, even though the opening might be calm and soft, there might be a moment, and there is, when we need to be heavy and fuller sounding. So let's try the same scale, but we're going to change our sound. When you played that scale, how did you feel with your bow? Did you feel like your bow was heavy, the weight was heavier, you were closer to the heel? And did it change your sound? Hopefully it did. So now, back to the opening. We want a really beautiful sound, very quiet, and I think virtually no vibrato. We're going to go close to the point of our bow, and this piece will start on an up bow. Don't use too much, maybe don't even use flat hair, tilt your hair. And we're going to go fairly close to the end of the fingerboard. Hopefully this will create a really calm, beautiful sound. Try it now. If it's not in tune, go back and correct it so that we're practicing it in tune. Practice. Another massive, important thing that we've got to remember is breathing. If we don't breathe, we'll fall off our stools and bang our heads. When we're looking at Karina, the conductor, what is her gesture saying to us? Are we breathing with her? Let's have a look. Her gesture seems to imply a welcoming play now. Let's watch her again. Do you think, play exactly where our hand lands, or is it slightly when it bumps back up again? Now, now, now. What do you think? Let's watch. Wherever you think it goes, however you think the gesture is and however you want to interpret it is totally up to you. But the one thing I would say is absolutely breathe with her. If you're playing with your section with thousands of other double bass players playing this first moment, we would all breathe together and as a result play together, which is super important. So let's do it again, but we're going to breathe together. Now we're going to make this sound super brilliant. We're going to breathe together and we're going to make sure that our first note is really clear and we don't have any wee judder where we have a sort of a misstart. Breathe, relax, play. It's good to try it a few times. There'll almost certainly be some that you like, some that you don't. When you found the one that you do like, try and pinpoint what you did, how relaxed you were, and how you were interpreting Karina's gesture and how your breath was. Combine all of these aspects and repeat it. In this opening, I am super relaxed. It's no good if you're feeling tense, worried, or pinching anything. Pinching and squeezing your bow won't work. Equally, this won't work. This won't work. relax. In the first two bars, we have this D flat, which involves a shift. Wherever you want to shift in order to make the second bar work for you, for example, now. So when we do this and make a shift, we need to make sure that the shift is super smooth. Again, using your scale, you can practice shifting and how smooth you can shift. Looking through this piece, there are other difficult passages, mainly because of our bow and how we distribute the bow. C is a perfect example, which is bar 31. We're going to start pianissimo and then end up forte. I'm using flat hair, quite heavy weight, but I'm still relaxed. I'm not pushing. If we push, we will get this sort of sound. There's no flow that way. Breathe, relax, play. At this section, at bar 34 in particular on our Gs, I'd always say play close to the bridge, but don't forget, if you're in a really low position, playing really close to the bridge won't work. At home on your double bass, you need to experiment and find the extremities of where can you play your G, where does it sound, which is most appropriate for this piece. When we play C, we have to think about our bow distribution. So at bar 31, it is pianissimo crescendo. You don't need to use up all your bow. You have to be quite controlled of it, but you don't need to use it all up because it is pianissimo. Divide the bow. However, by bar 33, we want to use a lot of bow on that low G. It is forte, appassionato. The bowing I suggest is up on the G for a dotted crotchet, quaver still up on the B flat, down on the A flat, and then up on the G, and hold that G for 3 crotchets on an up bow. That note in particular, you need to save the bow. Perhaps at the beginning of your crescendo, not too much. Then go quicker to match the crescendo. Divide the up bow in bar 33 so that you have a good amount for the dotted crotchet, and then just enough for your quaver in the same bow. And then on the A flat, the down bow, use the whole bow. You could even release a weight just a tiny bit in that A flat so that you can get through the bow but without suddenly making it out of context loud compared to the beginning of that same bar. Something like that. From here on in, so bar 35 onwards, as much bow on every note as you can manage. If you find that you need to take more bows, do it. Take more bows. This is a passionate moment. If you have to take more bows, as bass players, our bows are short, we can take more bows. And in fact, at bar 35, I will take 2 bows. It's a long note for us bass players. We have to sustain it and crescendo. So bar 37 will be this. Down again, down, and then up on the A flat, then down on the G, and up. I would do this bowing. This may differ to the other stringed instruments, but we need to use the bow and we need to produce a nice full sound at this point. In this section where we're using full bows and we're trying to create a really beautiful full sound, where is your imagination taking you? And are you communicating to your listener what you want to communicate? Think about that and maybe adjust what you're doing to match your imagination even more. So, tutorial number 1. Think about your imagination, where the piece is taking you and how you're going to communicate to your audience. Pick out some tricky bits. For us in this part, a lot of it is to do with our sound making, our sound quality, the extremities of a full sound compared to even the opening, which should be probably quite a quiet, calm, thinner, more distant sound. Experiment with those and make sure you're getting the best out of your instrument to communicate what you want to communicate. Practice G minor scale. I cannot stress enough how important scales are. Scales are in everything. My own pupils get bored of me saying the whole speech over and over again, but trust me, if you can play your scales and they crop up, you can just play pieces so much quicker. Your facility on your instrument is so much better. Practice your scales. Practice. This piece requires G minor-ish type scales. So practice G minor, G major, G arpeggios, the whole lot. Practice. Practice some different bowings, different speeds, different sounds, different styles. Think about breathing and how you interpret Karina the conductor's gesture. This has been tutorial number 1. I look forward to seeing you at the sectionals and my next tutorial, which will be tutorial number 2. Have a really great week. Stay safe.